Hey everyone. I'm choosing prompt number 2 about the media portrayals and myths about Black masculinity. So, when I think about that, I think about all the negative stereotypes, um, that come with how the media likes to treat Black men across movies, maybe in books, or and a bunch of other stuff too. Uh, like I noticed sometimes the robbers, they would normally when someone's robbing a store in a movie or something like that, they were normally they just so happened to be a Black man, or they were seen as overly aggressive in a movie or a TV show, but yet the other races in the TV show, specifically the white races, were usually they were usually less aggressive and more calm and collected, while the Black man was always seen as he was so aggressive all the time. And I think that's very not true, and it's very unfair towards Black men in particular, because they would, if even though I'm not Black myself, I am a white woman, I just couldn't imagine the feeling of people looking at me and thinking that way about me. And because it's used so often, people like to normalize it. And because, if you think about a psychological factor too, it's used so often in the media, which is extremely harmful, by the way, and it needs to stop. But it's used so often in the media that it makes people think that it's normal, and it makes people think that it's okay to think of Black men that way. And that's not okay, and there needs to be more attention to say this is not okay. But unfortunately, there's just not enough of that stuff out there. And I think that this connects to the new Jim Crow, the book we're reading, because Dr. Alexander said something about how those stereotypes help justified the policies, like the war on drugs, where the Black men were targeted and over policed through their drug use, even though the studies showed that just about every other race of men was using drugs just as much as the Black men, but the Black men were purposely targeted and thought of using the most drugs, which isn't true. That's a false narrative. And that feeds into the Black masculinity, and it made just punishments and policies way harsher than it really needed to be. And it's really unfair towards Black men. And it made me realize, after reading those stats, even through the other stuff that I read about so far this week, I just realized that, and I already knew a lot of this stuff too, but it's important to learn about it again. And there definitely needs to be a change. I heard, this is something I knew about for a while, but I heard in the 90s, it used to be really, really bad. I wasn't born in the 90s. I was born in the early 2000s, but I was hearing from my dad how bad racism was towards Black men, because he was a police officer back then, in the early 2000s, and he also witnessed some really racist stuff too, and he said it was he did enjoy being a police officer, but he said it was one of those things, as being a police officer, that he didn't think was okay. And he's not a huge political activist, but he did say though that this changed his perspective on a lot of things that he used to think. Like, he used to think a lot differently until he witnessed it himself, like all the racism and stuff. So I definitely do agree there needs to be a change in the media. And just think about it, like every single time when I think I watched a movie where there was a robber, it was always a black man. It always was. And that is so unfair. It was never any other race. It was never any other gender. Always a black man. And that is not okay in any way. It needs to be, it needs to be more fair.